And the main difference here, as I understand it, is that these forms now will be all the same for DOT and private contractors. So that everybody's reporting on the same forms, which evidently didn't used to be the situation. And these should be very familiar with those of you that do this reporting as far as the material is concerned. Okay. Document, identify risks, share knowledge. This is the purpose of reporting. The purpose of reporting is not to evaluate an individual worker or an individual supervisor. It's not meant to be an individual evaluation. It's meant to keep track of the work that's being done. Okay, here again, not tracking individual performance, not comparing your performance with somebody else's, or even one crew with the next. It's to make sure that the work that's supposed to be done does get done on a timely basis. That's it, you know. Okay, how do you report? Well, HDO staff here, contractors here, very similar kinds of things. And here again, ordinary crew members may not be involved in reporting other maybe than your timesheet. Managers and supervisors would handle a lot of this. Daily records and so forth on timesheets against certain codes and so forth. AS400 system. If you're involved in that, you know what that means. I don't really know what that means. It's, I guess, a certain reporting system. File monthly or quarterly reports is determined. Contractors, again, the same thing. Record time and effort on activity codes. Here's the difference here. Invoices need to be accompanied by reports because that's how they get paid. They invoice for a particular period of time, and that invoice is based upon the work done. Now, some of the differences now are that invoice may, according, kind of depending on the inspector, may or may not get paid full amount for what they invoice if they didn't do a job thoroughly enough. And we'll talk about that a little bit here, a little bit more. Things to report, safety issues. You see things like this, roots growing out of a culvert, block culverts, this kind of stuff, dumping along the sides. These are the kinds of things that go, that should be reported on a daily basis if you see them. And there's special reporting forms for that. Here, maintenance activity reports for mowing, edging, and trimming. Again, this is all in the book. Pretty straightforward. These codes here for the activities, the hours, and the approximate amounts done. This is to determine, again, not how fast you do things or whether they're done or not. Well, actually, whether they're done or not. You know, DOT wants to know what's being done, and if things aren't being done, then they need to identify those things. Pruning shrubs, trees, again, activity code 2441. All of this, all these activities, again, time spent, approximate square feet, approximate areas. You could say, for example, trimmed hedges along Kalanianiole Highway or whatever, from one place, one marker to the other, and approximate footage for that. Replacing plants. I know here again, this isn't a common thing. Sometimes plants do need to be replaced, and there's a form for that. The activity, the engineer's approval for the types and species is required. We talked about, selecting from the nursery and so forth. So there's an activity code also for that. Weeding, either hand weeding, spraying, whatever activities. Again, 2442 activity code there on the forms. Invasive species, you don't necessarily have to do the elimination of that or the control, but at least identify to the invasive species committee, this number here, that you're coming across those kinds of things, and they're fully equipped to go out there and handle that. So it's not necessarily your job to make the control effort, but at least to identify what needs to be done. And again, like Christy said, you're on the front lines. You're normally the first ones to see these kinds of things coming in. Litter removal and disposal, this is just like mowing, a normal activity. Cleaning drainage structures and so forth, a normal activity. Again, what they are and so forth. locations. If we fertilize, there'll be fertilizer logs. If we use pesticides, there'll be pesticides logs. Fertilizer usage logs will be similar, to this, reporting the condition of the weather and so forth and so on. It's just a matter of check, check, check. Not a whole lot of writing here. Here, how much you applied, any comments and so forth. So just a standard, easily filled in, unless they have 80,000 of them, form. Pesticide use the same way, same kind of form. Here again, this would be just periodic, whenever that activity happens to come up. Disposal, this is kind of important. Disposal of any waste materials, especially toxic wastes, by OSHA standards have to be properly documented and disposed of. So there's a special disposal of expired chemicals and so forth. Irrigation. Tomorrow you're going to hear a lot about irrigation, various activities for sprinkling and watering, just scheduling those, making sure that it happens in places that have irrigation, operation and maintenance of the system. Irrigation contractors, and I think also DOT is going to be required to have an annual walkthrough of areas that are irrigated with the inspector to identify various areas that are a problem that either have or have not been addressed. There's going to be a monthly report due on irrigation activities and repairs. Mark will talk a lot more about that when he talks about inspecting. General management kinds of things, again, for the manager need to be addressed. And then again, in a nutshell, this is kind of what we're talking about here. Complying with various kinds of state and federal regulations.